The Galactic Council had ruled the known universe for 12 million years. 7 ancient species, known as the Elders, controlled billions of star systems with their advanced technology and endless wisdom. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched young species take their first steps into space and guided them toward peace. They believed they understood everything about the universe and the creatures within it. But deep in their most protected archives, hidden behind security systems that would take 1 million years to break, there was a single file that none of them wanted to open. The file carried a simple image on its cover: a small blue planet with green lands and white clouds spinning around a yellow star. The planet was called Earth, and the species that once lived there had given the Elders nightmares for 1,000 years. Admiral Cole stood on the command bridge of the starship Vanguard and looked at the holographic map floating before him. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen too much war and too much loss. Behind him, the crew worked quietly at their stations, running final checks on the ship systems. They were about to do something that no human had done in 1,000 years. They were going home. The history books told a simple story. 1,000 years ago, humanity had fought a great war against the Galactic Council. The war had lasted 50 years and cost billions of lives on both sides. In the end, humanity lost. The survivors were stripped of their technology and scattered to the far edges of the galaxy where no one would find them. The Council believed that humans would die slowly in the darkness between stars. They were wrong. Humans did not die. They survived on frozen moons and barren asteroids. They built new homes from the wreckage of their old ships. They had children and taught those children to remember where they came from. Generation after generation, they rebuilt their civilization piece by piece. They rediscovered science. They reinvented technology. And after 1,000 years of exile, they had built a fleet of starships capable of crossing the galaxy. Now Cole was leading that fleet back to the space their ancestors had once called home. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Warren walked up to him with it in her hand. She was younger than, with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had served under him for 10 years, and he trusted her more than anyone else in the fleet. "Admiral, we are picking up signals from the inner systems," she said. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the tension underneath. "The Galactic Council still exists. Their communication networks are everywhere." Nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Elders lived for millions of years. 1,000 years was nothing to them. "What else?" he asked. Lisa hesitated for a moment before answering. "According to the signals we intercepted, they have been monitoring our sector for centuries. They knew we survived. They have been watching us rebuild." Turned to face her fully. "They knew we were out there this whole time." "Yes, sir, and there is more." She handed him their communications mention us frequently. They have been tracking our population growth, our technological development, everything. The messages are classified at the highest level." Looked at thee and read the translated words on the screen. His expression did not change, but something cold settled in his chest. The messages were filled with fear. The mighty Elders, rulers of the galaxy, were afraid of humanity. They had been afraid for 1,000 years. "They are scared of us," Lisa said quietly. "All this time they never stopped being scared." Handed the back to her. "Good, they should be." In another part of the ship, Commander Grant was going through old files recovered from a human station that had been abandoned during the original exile. Was the ship intelligence officer, and his job was to find information that others had forgotten. He was good at his job. The files he found told a different story than the one humanity had been taught. According to these records, humans had not started the war 1,000 years ago. The Council had attacked first. They had come without warning and destroyed human colonies before any declaration of war. Millions of innocent people had died in those first attacks. Brought this information to the Admiral immediately. "Why would they attack first?" asked after reading the files. Pulled up another document on the main screen. It showed charts and projections made by council scientists 1,000 years ago. They ran calculations on our species, based on how fast we were advancing technologically and how quickly our population was growing. They predicted that humanity would become more powerful than all elder species combined within 500 years. Lisa stepped closer to look at the screen. So they tried to destroy us because of what we might become in the future. Exactly, confirmed. They saw us as a threat that needed to be eliminated before we grew too strong. They planned to wipe us out completely. They called it the Extinction Protocol. Stared at the ancient projections on the screen. His ancestors had done nothing wrong. They had simply grown too fast and dreamed too big, and for that crime, the elders had tried to murder them all. The records also show something else, continued. We almost won. Despite being outnumbered 1,000 to 1, human forces fought for 50 years before falling. The Council had to sacrifice 3 entire battle fleets just to push us back. They won through numbers alone. Was quiet for a long time. Outside the ship windows, the stars burned cold and bright in the endless darkness. Somewhere out there was Earth, his species had not seen in 1,000 years. Somewhere out there were the beings who had tried to erase humanity from existence. Send a message to all ships in the fleet, finally said. Tell them what we learned today. Tell them that our ancestors were innocent. Tell them that the elders struck first and tried to kill every man, woman, and child of our species. He paused and looked at the stars again. And tell them that we are going home, not as exiles, not as refugees, but as the children of those who refuse to die. The galaxy forgot about us for 1,000 years. It is time to remind them that humanity is still here. Lisa nodded and moved to send the message. Across the fleet, on dozens of ships carrying millions of people, the truth spread like fire. Their ancestors had been victims, not villains. And now, after 1,000 years of silence, humanity was finally ready to speak again. The journey back had begun. On the council world of Prime, the 7 elder species gathered in their great chamber for the first time in 300 years. The chamber was enormous, built from materials that did not exist on any natural world. Light fell from above in colors that younger species could not even see. This was the heart of galactic civilization, the place where decisions affecting trillions of lives were made. High Arbiter of the floated at the center of the chamber. His body was made of flowing silver energy that shifted and pulsed with his emotions. He had lived for 2 million years and remembered things that most species had forgotten long ago. Right now, he remembered fear. The humans have returned, he announced to the assembly. His voice echoed through the chamber and vibrated in frequencies that touched the minds of every being present. Our sensors have confirmed 17 warships crossing the boundary we established after the Extinction Accord. The reaction was immediate. The massive beings made of living stone rumbled with anger and concern. The creatures of pure light flickered nervously like candles in a strong wind. The beautiful crystalline beings chimed softly as they processed this information. The other elder species responded in their own ways, but all of them felt the same thing: dread. Ambassador of the moved forward. Her body caught the chamber light and broke it into 1,000 rainbows. She was considered young among her kind, only 400,000 years old, and she had a reputation for asking difficult questions. Perhaps they come in peace, she suggested. 1,000 years is a long time, long enough for any species to change. Perhaps they are not the same humans who fought our ancestors. Turned to face her, and his silver glow dimmed with the weight of memory. You were not there during the Reclamation War. I was. I saw things that I have spent 1,000,000 years trying to forget. The chamber fell silent. Even the youngest elders knew that had fought in the ancient war, but he rarely spoke of it. I watched a single human battalion hold a defensive position against 40,000 warriors, continued. They are the greatest soldiers in the galaxy. They should have crushed those humans in hours. Instead, the battle lasted 6 standard days. When it was over, every human was dead, but so were 30,000. The representative, a mountain of granite and crystal named, shifted uncomfortably. His people still told stories of that battle. They told them as warnings. I saw human ships ram directly into our vessels when their weapons failed, said. They knew they would die. They did it anyway. I saw humans fight with nothing but their bare hands against enemies with advanced armor and energy weapons. They fought until their hearts stopped beating. He paused, letting the memories wash over him like poison. We only won because we outnumbered them 1,000 to 1. We had to sacrifice 3 entire fleets, millions of soldiers, just to push them back. And even then, they did not surrender. They retreated to the outer edges of the galaxy and kept fighting from there. We declared victory, but we did not defeat them. We simply ran out of the will to keep dying. Absorbed this information with the patience of her kind. But that was 1,000 years ago. Surely they have changed. Humans do not change, rumbled. His voice sounded like an earthquake. They adapt, they improve, they become more dangerous. That is what humans do. On the other side of the galaxy, aboard the Vanguard, Admiral Cole was learning more about his ancestors every hour. Commander Grant had found additional files in the recovered archives, and the picture they painted was both inspiring and terrifying. According to these records, humanity had only been a spacefaring species for 400 years when the war began, explained Tu and Lisa in the ship conference room. The elder species had been traveling between stars for millions of years. By every measure, we should have been primitive compared to them. But we were not, said. No, sir. Within those 400 years, human scientists had made discoveries that took other species 100,000 years to achieve. Our engineers were building ships that could match elder vessels in combat. Our population was doubling every 50 years. Pulled up more data on the screen. The council projections were clear. If humanity continued at this rate, we would surpass all elder species within 5 centuries. Lisa leaned back in her chair. So they decided to kill us before we could become a threat. The records show that the vote was unanimous, said. All 7 elder species agreed to the extinction protocol. They planned to destroy every human colony, every human ship, every human life. Complete erasure. Felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. It was not anger. It was something deeper. His ancestors had done nothing wrong. They had simply been too successful, too creative, too alive, and for that the elders had tried to murder them all. What stopped them? He asked. Smiled slightly. We did. The first attack destroyed 12 colony worlds and killed 2 billion people. The elders expected the survivors to panic and scatter. Instead, humanity united. Every nation, every faction, every group that had ever fought each other came together against the common enemy. He showed footage from the ancient archives. Human ships, small and crude compared to elder vessels, charging directly into enemy formations. Human soldiers holding ground against overwhelming odds. Human civilians building weapons in factories while bombs fell around them. The war lasted 50 years. By the end, humanity had lost 90% of its population. But the elders had lost something too. They lost their belief that they could not be challenged. They lost their certainty that the universe belonged to them. Lisa watched the footage with tears in her eyes. She saw ancestors she would never know fighting and dying for children they would never meet. Those people had given everything so that she could exist 1,000 years later. The Extinction Accord was not a victory for the Council, continued. It was a surrender they dressed up as mercy. They let humanity live in exile because they were too tired and too afraid to finish the job. They hoped we would die on our own in the outer darkness. Stood and walked to the window. Outside, the fleet moved in formation, dozens of ships carrying the hopes of a species that had refused to disappear. They made a mistake, he said quietly. They pushed us to the edge of extinction and then let us go. They gave us 1,000 years to recover and rebuild. Now we are coming back, and we are stronger than ever." He turned back to face his officers. "Send a message to the council. Tell them we request a meeting. Tell them we want to talk." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Just talk." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "For now, let them see what we have become. Let them remember why they were afraid, and then we will see what happens next." The message was sent. Across the galaxy, the elders received it and felt the old fear rising in their ancient hearts. The humans were coming, and this time there would be no running away. The meeting was set to take place on a dead moon orbiting a dying star. The location was chosen carefully. Neutral ground, no advantage to either side. The moon had no atmosphere and no life. It was a place where nothing grew and nothing lived. It seemed fitting for a conversation between enemies. Admiral Cole transported down to the surface with a small delegation. Lisa Warren stood at his right side, her hand resting casually near her sidearm. Commander Grant carried with all the information they might need. Captain Harper, commander of the Vanguard Marine Detachment, completed the group. Was a large man with quiet eyes and the kind of calm that came from surviving too many battles. He did not speak much, but when he did, people listened. The meeting chamber was a temporary structure built by council engineers. Inside, the air was warm and breathable. Lights glowed from the ceiling in soft colors. A long table separated two sides of the room. The elders were already waiting. High Arbiter floated at the center of their delegation. His silver form pulsed with energy that made the air feel thick and heavy. Behind him stood 3 other High Arbiters from different elder species, and surrounding them were 200 elite guards, each 8 feet tall and made of living stone. They carried weapons that could level mountains. The message was clear. The council wanted humanity to feel small. Walked into the chamber without hesitation. He did not slow down when he saw the guards. He did not flinch when turned the full weight of his ancient gaze upon him. He simply walked to his side of the table and stood there, calm and patient. "Admiral Cole," began. His voice was cold and formal. "You trespass in council space. By the terms of the Extinction Accord, your people were banished permanently to the outer rim of the galaxy. You have no right to be here." Looked at the ancient being for a long moment before responding. "We never signed that accord. Your ancestors made a deal with a government that fell apart 1,000 years ago. That government is gone. Its agreements died with it. We are not bound by documents we never agreed to." "Then you choose war again?" asked. The guards shifted slightly, hands tightening on weapons. Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I choose nothing yet. I came here to ask a question first." He stepped forward, ignoring the way the guards tracked his movement. Lisa and tensed behind him, ready for anything, but moved with complete confidence. 1,000 years ago, your people attacked my ancestors without warning. You destroyed 12 peaceful colonies before we even knew we were at war. You tried to erase humanity from existence, not because we had done anything wrong, but because we were growing too fast, because we might become powerful someday. He stopped a few feet from the table and looked directly at. "We did not die. We rebuilt in the darkness you left us in. We raised children who raised children who raised children. Generation after generation, we remembered, we recovered, and now we number in the trillions across 1,200 colony worlds." The chamber was completely silent. Even the guards seemed frozen. "So my question is simple," continued. "Do you want to try again?" Stared at the human before him. He searched for any sign of bluff or fear. He found nothing. The human meant every single word. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, did not know what to say. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "Recognition," replied immediately. "Full membership in the Galactic Council with all rights and privileges. Access to all territories in the galaxy. Return of our original, including Earth, and a formal public apology for the attempted genocide of our species." That is unacceptable, said. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Turned and started walking toward the exit. Wait, the voice came from Ambassador, who had been observing quietly from the side. She floated forward, her crystalline body catching and scattering the light in beautiful patterns. Please wait. Stopped and turned back. I'm not here to make demands or threats, said. I am here to understand. I have studied your species. What little information remains in our archives. You are a contradiction. You wage war with terrible efficiency, yet you build civilizations that celebrate beauty and art and love. You fight until your last breath, yet you also show mercy to defeated enemies. You are capable of great destruction and great compassion. She moved closer too, and her form chimed softly like bells in a gentle wind. I want to know what you truly want, not territories, not recognition. What do you want for your people? Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more human. We want to come home. We want our children to grow up under real sunlight on real worlds. We want to build cities and farms and schools without fear that someone will come to destroy them. We want a future. He looked around the chamber at all the ancient beings watching him. We do not want revenge. We do not want war. We simply want to exist. And we will do whatever it takes to make that happen. Nodded slowly. I believe you. She turned to face and the other arbiters. Perhaps it is time to consider that we were wrong 1,000 years ago. Perhaps fear led us to make a terrible mistake. The humans survived everything we did to them. They came back stronger. Maybe the universe is trying to tell us something. Was silent. The other arbiters exchanged glances. We will discuss your requests, finally said. Return to your ships. We will contact you with our decision. Nodded. Do not take too long. We have waited 1,000 years already. Our patience is not infinite. He turned and walked out of the chamber with his delegation following behind. As they left, leaned close and spoke quietly. That went better than expected. It went exactly as expected, replied. They needed to see that we are not afraid of them anymore. Now they have to decide what to do about it. Lisa looked back at the chamber entrance. What if they decide to attack? Kept walking. Then they will learn why their ancestors were right to be afraid. The shuttle lifted off from the dead moon and carried them back to the vanguard. Behind them, the elders remained in the meeting chamber, talking in urgent voices about the creatures who had returned from exile. The humans were not what they expected. They were worse. They were confident. They were calm. They were ready. And that was the most frightening thing of all. The negotiations had stalled. Weeks passed with no word from the council. Kept his fleet in position, waiting for a response that never came. Some of his officers grew restless. Others grew angry, remained patient. He had learned long ago that patience was a weapon more powerful than any gun. Then the sensors detected something that changed everything. Commander Grant was the first to see the data. He was working late in the intelligence center when the long-range scanners picked up movement in the void between galaxies. At first, he thought it was a sensor error. The numbers were too big. They had to be wrong. But they were not wrong. He ran to the bridge and found Admiral Cole staring at the same data on the main screen. Is this accurate? Asked without looking away from the display. I have confirmed it 3 times, replied. There is a fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. Estimated number of vessels is somewhere between 100,000 and 500,000. We cannot get an exact count because they are still too far away. Lisa stepped up beside them. Who are they? Unknown. Ship designs do not match anything in our records or in the council databases we have accessed. Pulled up more information. But the council seems to know. Their communications have gone crazy in the last hour. They are panicking. Watched the data stream across the screen. A fleet of hundreds of thousands of ships coming from the darkness between galaxies. It was the kind of threat that made all other problems seem small. Find out everything you can, he ordered. The answer came within hours. Old records buried in council archives told the story of the Devourers. They were a machine intelligence that had consumed 3 entire galaxies before the Elders even existed. No one knew who created them or why. They simply moved from galaxy to galaxy, stripping each one of all resources and all life. Then they went dormant, sleeping between the stars for millions of years until something woke them up. Something had woken them up, and now they were hungry again. The Council sent an emergency message to the human fleet. For the first time since the war, they were asking for help. Called a meeting of his senior officers, Lisa, and gathered in the conference room along with the captains of the other major ships in the fleet. The Devourers will reach Council space in approximately 8 months, reported. Based on their historical patterns, they will consume everything in their path, every planet, every station, every ship. They do not negotiate, they do not take prisoners, they simply destroy and move on. Leaned forward, what forces does the Council have? Their combined fleets number around 50,000 ships. That sounds like a lot until you realize the Devourers outnumber them at least 4 to 1. And Devourer ships are bigger and more heavily armed. Lisa shook her head. Even with our fleet added, we cannot match those numbers. No, agreed, we cannot. He looked at with the same calm expression he always wore. But we have something they do not. What is that? Lisa asked. Humans. The room was quiet as everyone processed what he meant. The Council thinks in terms of acceptable losses and strategic retreats, continued. They calculate the odds and make rational decisions based on survival. That is how they have operated for millions of years. But humans do not think that way. We do not calculate acceptable losses. We find ways to win when winning should be impossible. Nodded slowly. You are suggesting we take command of the defense. I am suggesting we show the galaxy what humans do when everything is on the line. The message went out to the Council that same day. Humanity offered to lead the combined defense against the Devourers. In exchange, they wanted everything they had asked for in the original negotiations. Full recognition, full membership. Their returned, everything. The Council deliberated for 3 days. Then they agreed. Admiral Cole was given supreme command of the combined galactic fleet. For the first time in history, a human was placed in charge of the most powerful military force in the known universe. The first thing did was reorganize everything. Council tactics were designed around minimizing losses and preserving resources. Human tactics were designed around winning. The two approaches were completely different. We are not going to hide behind defensive positions and wait for them to grind us down, announced to the assembled fleet commanders. We are going to hit them before they are ready. We are going to make them bleed for every inch of space. We are going to show them that this galaxy is not an easy meal. The commander, a massive stone warrior named, rumbled his approval. Finally, a strategy that makes sense. Lisa worked day and night coordinating the fleet movements, analyzed every piece of data they could find about Devourer tactics and weaknesses, trained mixed units of human and elder soldiers in combined operations. The months passed quickly. The fleet grew larger as every species in the galaxy contributed what they could. Ships arrived from distant sectors. Soldiers joined from worlds that had not seen war in a million years. The fear of the Devourers united everyone in a way that nothing else could. When the enemy finally arrived, the defenders were ready. Stood on the bridge of the flagship, a massive council vessel that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Around him, officers from a dozen different species worked together at their stations. He could see the Devourer fleet emerging from the darkness like a wave of metal and death. There were so many of them, more than the projections had predicted. They filled the screen from edge to edge, a wall of destruction moving toward everything he was sworn to protect. Activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Cole. The enemy believes we will break. They believe we will scatter and flee and die alone in the darkness. He paused and looked around the bridge at the faces watching him. Human. A dozen species that had once been enemies, now standing together. They are wrong. Today we fight as one. Today we show the universe what happens when you threaten our home. He took a deep breath and gave the order. All ships attack. The combined fleet surged forward to meet the enemy. Weapons fire lit up the darkness. Ships on both sides began to die. The greatest battle in galactic history had begun. And at the center of it all, a species that had once been marked for extinction was leading the fight for survival. The war against the Devourers lasted 3 years. It was the longest and bloodiest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. Star systems that had existed for billions of years were reduced to dust. Worlds that had been home to trillions of beings were consumed by the machine intelligence. The cost of victory was measured in numbers too large to truly understand. But the defenders held, and in the end they won. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the final Devourer command ship burn. The massive vessel, larger than some moons, was breaking apart under sustained fire from 100 different ships. Explosions rippled across its surface as systems failed and reactors went critical. Captain Harper had led the final assault. His Marine team had boarded the command ship and fought their way to its core, where they planted charges that would destroy the central intelligence controlling the entire Devourer fleet. The explosions they triggered ended the war. Did not survive. His last transmission was calm and steady, the same voice he had always used. Charges set, they are coming for us, we cannot get out, tell the Admiral it was worth it. Then the line went dead. Closed his eyes for a moment when he heard the news. He had lost many people over the past 3 years, thousands of human soldiers, millions from other species. Each death carried its own weight, but had been with him since the beginning. His loss felt like losing a piece of himself. Lisa stood beside him, tears running silently down her face, gripped the edge of his console so hard his knuckles turned white. Around them, the fleet celebrated. Ships from every species in the galaxy fired their weapons into empty space, traditional signals of victory that lit up the darkness like fireworks. The Devourers were finished. The galaxy was saved. And humanity had led them to victory. The formal ceremony took place 6 months later on Prime. The great chamber where the elders had once debated the extinction of humanity was now filled with representatives from every species in the galaxy. They had come to witness something that none of them ever expected to see. Admiral Cole walked into the chamber wearing his dress uniform. The medals on his chest told the story of 3 years of war. The gray in his hair had spread during those years and new lines marked his face. But his eyes were the same, calm, patient, unyielding. Lisa walked at his right side, now holding the rank of captain, walked at his left. Behind them came a delegation of human officers and diplomats, representatives of a species that had risen from the ashes of genocide to save the very beings who had tried to destroy them. High Arbiter floated at the center of the chamber. His silver form was dimmer than it had been 3 years ago. The war had taken something from all of them. Admiral Cole began. His voice carried a weight it had never held before. You have done what we could not. You united our fractured peoples and led us to victory against an enemy that should have destroyed us all. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. 1,000 years ago, my ancestors feared your species. They feared what you might become. They tried to destroy you because of that fear. He moved closer to. They were right to see your potential. They were wrong to respond with violence. That is a shame we will carry forever. Produced a ceremonial seal, an ancient symbol of membership in the Galactic Council. On behalf of the Council and all the peoples of this galaxy, I extend formal recognition to the Terran Federation as a full and equal member of this body. Your territories are restored. Your rights are guaranteed. Your people are our partners in all things. He offered the seal too. And for the crimes committed against your ancestors, we offer our deepest apologies. Nothing can undo what was done, but we hope this is a first step toward healing wounds that have festered for far too long. Accepted the seal with steady hands. He looked at it for a moment, this symbol of everything his ancestors had fought and died for. Then he looked up at the assembled representatives. 1,000 years ago, you feared what humanity might become. You tried to destroy us because of that fear. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. Now you know what we became, not conquerors, not destroyers, protectors. He held the seal high. The galaxy is our home now, and we defend our home. The chamber erupted in response. Warriors rumbled their approval, flickered with joy, chimed in harmonious celebration. Even the most ancient elders joined in acknowledging what humanity had achieved. Later, after the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Ambassador found Lisa standing alone on a balcony, overlooking the eternal city of the. "May I join you?" the crystalline being asked. Lisa nodded. For a moment, they simply stood together, looking at the lights of a civilization that had existed for millions of years. "I have a question," finally said. "During the war, I observed your species carefully. You fought with a fury that terrified even the Devourers, yet you also risked your own lives to save enemy vessels that showed signs of surrender. You waged total war and showed unexpected mercy, sometimes in the same battle. How do you reconcile such extremes?" Lisa was quiet for a moment, thinking about all the people she had lost over the past 3 years. Thinking about who had died so that others could live. Thinking about her ancestors, who had suffered and fought and refused to give up so that she could exist 1,000 years later. "We do not fight because we enjoy destruction," she finally answered. "We fight because there are things we love too much to lose. Family, friends, home, the future." She looked at. "Protect what you love fiercely enough and you can move stars." Considered this for a long time. Her crystalline form caught the light of distant suns and scattered it into rainbows. "The elders feared humanity for 1,000 years," she said at last. "We were right to recognize your power, but we feared the wrong thing. You are not dangerous because of your capacity for violence. You are dangerous because of your capacity for love. That is what drives you to fight when others would surrender. That is what kept your species alive when we tried to destroy you." Lisa smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a hopeful one. "Maybe now you understand us a little better." "I think I am beginning to," admitted. "And I think the galaxy is better for having you in it." Below them, the city lights sparkled like earthbound stars. Somewhere out there, human colonies were being rebuilt on worlds that had not seen human life in 1,000 years. Children were being born under alien suns. Schools were being built. Farms were being planted. The future that so many had died for was finally becoming real. Cole stood on Earth for the first time in his life 3 months later. He walked on soil that his ancestors had walked on before their exile. He breathed air that smelled different from any recycled atmosphere he had ever known. He looked up at a blue sky and saw white clouds and felt something break open in his chest. He was home. The elders had feared humanity. They had tried to destroy what they feared, and in the end, they had only made humanity stronger. Now the species that was meant to disappear had become the protectors of the entire galaxy. The universe would never be the same.